Hello, this is Phil McNally with Artspeak, and we continue on with part two of Carolyn Edlund. This is the continuing interview that I've had with her, and it goes deeper into pretty much where she feels artists are and how they should advance if they want to go into the business world. She opens up lots of doors and ideas and insights that even I didn't even know about that are quite interesting. So sit back, relax. Let's take a look and see how this interview goes, and hopefully you get something out of it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
As from a consultant side, I guess I take it you help artists and direct them in certain areas that they need to be versus what they think they need to be?
Yeah. Yes. So I work individually one-on-one with clients all the time. And for example, I just yesterday wrapped up a consulting package with an artist who had taken some bad advice, and she had taken the advice to stop going one direction and start making all kinds of different things, which totally threw everything off. And that she ought to just triple all of her prices because her prices were too low. And she was advised to do that by someone who had no experience with pricing art. And so she priced all of her work out of the market, and all of her sales stopped and everything came to a grinding halt. And so she came to me and we sorted everything out. We took a deep dive into what she seriously wanted to be doing in a cohesive way. And she did a lot of self-curation, fixed her website, fixed her pricing, and now is going forward with an entire marketing plan. Everything's back on track, and she is very clear on where she's going. A lot of people don't know what are their options, where can they go, what can they do, and they'll say, well, I think I belong here. And if they really don't belong there, I would tell them, or do you know that this is an option, or you might be a good fit for this, or maybe look at your pricing. Do you have any sales history? No? Well, how do you justify these prices? How did you get to these prices? And then, I teach pricing as a course and presentation as a course. I have those available as well. So yeah, there's all of these problems that people have. And the truth is, Phil, that everyone has the same problems. Very rarely do I run into a truly unique issue out there. But most people, they're not quite sure how to price their work, or they don't quite know how to market, or something's not working, or their website's a mess, or they need to decide how to choose opportunities, or they need to be directed into, what is the good market for me? And so these are the discussions that we have. What is right for you? What do you want to do? How much time are you willing to put into it? Is this a fit for what you are interested in?
No, that's everybody wants to hit that spot, but not everybody knows enough about that. It's almost like I think we all done this. You go to school, you come across teachers, and they teach you something, and you become basically an expert because the teacher taught you something, but the teacher never becomes the expert because they never applied pretty much what they've done, but they've taught somebody else who evoked something from that and saying, okay, I think this is great, let's go forward. Why so many teachers are teachers and not actually skilled professionals, I wonder sometimes.
Well, there are many art teachers out there who are probably teaching technique and whatever medium they're working on, but they're not experts in the business of art because they're not in business. Now, I spent 20 years running my own production studio. So I was in the wholesale marketplace, and we had hundreds of customers all over the country and even outside the country. I was doing trade shows and retail, and had a staff, and just doing straight up production for 20 years. And then I got out of that business in 2001, just burned out. I did more than I even knew I could do, but I'm very persistent. So I got to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore. And I got out of that business And then I went into sales, and I was selling for an art publishing company. So I was calling on store owners and retailers of all types, from mom and pops to large chains, selling art for the largest art publisher in the world at that time. And we had multiple lines with art for the wall, greeting cards, stationery, framed art, other products, and selling in through, as I said, all these different types of retailers. So my background is not only selling my own work, but also dealing with a whole territory and a book of business and selling art into retail stores. So, I mean, that's my particular background, and I've done it, so I do know how to do it. And I've talked to many other people. Now, do I have a background in something like licensing? No, I never licensed my work, but I've spoken with many experts and done many interviews and learned about it. So these kind of come on board as, these are other options. And if you really wanted, let's say, to construct a licensing contract very carefully to deal with a prospect you had, I wouldn't build that contract with you. I'd refer you to somebody that I know is an expert in that exact thing. So, I mean, everybody has a different experience and set of skills.
So what got you into the Artsy Shark?
Well, actually, I started Artsy Shark in end of 2009, and I had been in the business of art as an artist, and I had done very well. And then I had been a rep, and then unfortunately that company, they seemed to think that they didn't need a sales force, and so they fired the entire sales force in a conference call.
Oh my God!
Went out of business within 18 months, and we had all the relationships with the customers, so we simply replaced their lines with other lines and continued to sell. But so I knew, I mean, the internet was new, young. I learned, what are blogs? I don't know. Blog is where you write on the internet, and you're going to write an article about something. And I knew that I had a certain set of information and experience that a lot of other people did not have, whether they were selling at art shows, or whether they wanted to wholesale, or whether they were learning how to design a line, or how to price things, or anything else that I had experience with, the sales cycle and closing customers and prospecting and marketing. And so I started writing articles, and that was as I said, the end of 2009. And I have never stopped. I have consistently published. I've actually never missed a publishing date in 14 years.
Wow.
So I can tell you, if there is one characteristic that artists need more than anything else, it is persistence. And I've simply built my business through persistence. The first things I did was say, well, I don't know certain things. I mean, I never sold through fine art galleries. I was actually in a craft medium in ceramics. And so I just started networking on LinkedIn, and I'd reach out to somebody who used to be a gallery owner in New York and say, I want to talk to you about this, and I'd like to do an interview and an article. Well, everybody says yes, because everybody wants it, press and attention. And so I just networked with all of these people, knowing ahead of time where I wanted to position myself as an expert in this niche of the business of art. And so I pulled in all kinds of other people who had experience and knowledge I didn't have, and they would write for me, or they would have an interview with them, or they would teach with me. And then it just continued on and on. Now, I have also taught all over the country, lots of conferences and workshops, and I've run the Arts Business Institute, which is no longer around, but I was the executive director for 8 years, and I also worked with another nonprofit teaching the business of art and mentoring artists and working with mid-career artists on a business accelerator and so forth. So I've been working in tandem with many other colleagues. And I think that's something that's important for artists to do. Even if you're on your own and you want to sell your own art, get to know other artists. It's a wonderful community of very giving people. Many of them will give you great advice, or just straight up tell you, this is what I do. And you could give you advice, be very helpful. because that is a supportive community that is going to help you learn. They're going to give you their answers and advice, feedback, critique. Maybe you need critique. And they're people that you can just kind of feel that they're on your side because they're experiencing the same thing you are. So I would encourage artists. I mean, networking is one of the most important things I think anyone can do in business. And when you are in an art community and you're a vital part of that, yes, be online, but also if you can find any kind of an art salon or meetings or a group, you could meet at an art center or check your local. Is there an arts council, other arts organizations in your area? Can you become part of that? Then I think that that's a really valuable experience as well.
So tell me, because this is also something I found with those are great suggestions. I mean, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. But artists are introverts. How do you get the introverts to be extroverts to want to do some things that they're just out of the box? It's something else.
Well, okay, I don't think all artists are introverts. I think some of them are. Some people who do anything are introverts, in any business pretty much. So it can be more challenging, but I think that there are absolutely ways to reach out to people, despite the fact that you might feel shy or self-conscious about it, that you don't need to start doing TikTok videos where you're dancing and promoting your art. And some people do that, apparently, who are
we're not going to give you that list, no matter what. We're not going to give you that.
Yes, we're not going to do that. But, for example, I wrote an article the other day about how to start an email list. And people are they don't feel really confident starting a list like, I want you to be on my list. Well, how do you do that? And you really can just start your list with the people that you know, your family and your friends and, maybe your neighbors, people who go to your church, people that you know through acquaintances and so forth, people who are already in your email list who may or may not know that you do art. Maybe they do, and they just think it's great. Then just send them a personal email, especially if you have something coming up, even if you're just going to maybe have a cocktail party at your house and show some of your art. So let's say you don't even have a show going on. You can just do it yourself and ask them to come and thank them for being a supportive friend and just ask them to come over for this intimate gathering. And then you're just going to show some of your art. You're not promoting it to sell or giving discounts or being pitchy or anything like that, but just have close friends and people who might tell others to come and see what you're doing and to just kind of share that as a fun celebration of what you're doing. And maybe they're going to tell you that they're into something, and that's great too. It just helps get your work a little bit more known. And it's a very small baby step that's very safe. And there are many things that people who are introverts can do that are not, loud and out there and super risky.
Well, it's what you're saying. It's what you're saying is from a social standpoint. It's getting ourselves off this tube and the phone and getting ourselves back to conversation, eye-to-eye contact, people. Yeah. I've talked to one artist not too long ago, which I'm going to be interviewing here in the next month, and he's directed me. I kind of came across him and started talking about the same subject matter, and he basically was saying the same thing, but he was saying it from a point of start local, get involved locally. Get involved with the Chamber of Commerce or other people that are working in that area. Get involved with any kind of art guild or whatever that's happening in the area, and start going to meetings. And you brought up a good point as far as even the groups on Facebook or whatever that are artists. It's getting I think yourself as an artist around other artists and around other people. I mean, that's so I think important too. I really do agree with you.
Right. And if you find a group and you don't like them, find another group, but I do think being in person, is just so valuable. There are many people who think I'll just set up a website and that's where I'll sell my art and I'm not going to do anything in person. That does not work well. I mean, it could in certain circumstances where you have a really saleable item that you can instantly kind of merchandise online and just be selling. Or and here's another example. There was an artist who had really affordable work. His work was fun. He did kind of celebrity art, and he was selling a lot of prints, and he had put his work up online. Well, it turns out he'd spent 20 years selling at art shows all over the country, and he had built himself a heck of a list. And he was just blitzing that list, and people were just coming in because they're just repeat buying. And he had a great price point, you know, for his average piece. And they were buying, as I said, they were buying mostly reproductions. So yeah, he could just continue that online, but he put the hard work in first before he got off the road. So, you know, there's no magic bullet. There's no, it's just, it's like, maybe I could walk around and be discovered as a model. Well, good luck to you. I guess it could happen once in a million, but you need to do the work, and you need to get out there. And if your personality is this, you know, introvert, extrovert, you can find ways to interact with other people and find out what works, and then go there and then do more of what works. You know, I mean, anyone is in sales will be doing that. You find a good market, you're going to double down until you can mine all of the business out of that you can get. But always be open also to other ways of doing things. And that speaks to, I think, measuring what your success is in certain ways. Are you aware of what you're doing that works and what you're doing that doesn't work, so that you can make adjustments and you're not banging your head against the wall over and over, doing the same thing that's not working?
Or doing many things. Just you got the whole bucket open and you're just doing everything, and you're not doing anything well enough to figure out whether it works or not.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you should choose a few things. Like if you have no social media presence, maybe you're just going to do Instagram. And you're not on LinkedIn, or you're not on TikTok, or whatever. Pick one and go there. And that way you can be more present there than trying to be everywhere. Exactly. I agree with you.
Because all of that takes time. And it's when you get up in years like I am, it's like, you don't want to waste your time. You know, if I was younger, I'd waste my time. But then again, I'd be all over the place. And I think that's where a lot of people give up, because a lot of artists come in and say, you know, oh, this failed, this failed, this failed, this failed. This is not working. Too much time. My wife wants me to do this work and not the work I really want to do. And so I quit. And you could have, some of these people that are quitting probably are just astounding artists. I mean, just amazing artists, and they just lose it and say, well, the business killed me. Trying to get into the business killed me.
Well, that's very possible. I mean, I don't doubt that's true. But I also think you're giving I failed. Okay, so what has worked?
Yeah.
Where did I succeed?
Yeah.
So maybe these other things I'm not going to worry about. I'm only going this month or this year. I am only going to do, let's say you think that having an art gallery represent you is the best idea. For whatever reasons you have come to this conclusion because you've thought it through very thoroughly and you feel that that's your best option. Well, how do you look for a gallery, and how do you find them, and where should they be? And, you know, there's a lot to that. And are you approaching the correct galleries, and does your portfolio, is it ready, and do you know how to negotiate with these people, and what is your history, and what and how are you presenting yourself, and what do you have to say about your art? So if that's what you want to do, spend time trying to get into galleries. And if that's not working, why is that not working? And if I still want to do that, maybe do I need to get into some exhibitions? Do I need to build up my CV? Do I need to do a different body of work? Or what is it that you need? Because it's kind of cause and effect. What are you doing to get the results? And what results are you getting? And what do you need to change and adjust?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's the measurement. I mean, if you can't measure everything going on at once, you've got to look at certain things that you can handle. Go out on the road and say, this is where I think I should be. And then you measure it and say, no, this is telling me that's not where I should be. Maybe I need to shift, to change. And that's where I think a lot of the hang up comes too, because a lot of artists don't want to necessarily, or a lot of people in general don't necessarily like shifting. But I think when you're in the business world, and I'm sure you can really tell it because of as far back as you go, and being in that business, you have to shift all the time in order to keep the company profitable, period.
Yeah. I think you do, but I don't want to give people the impression that you're constantly moving. What you do is you find out core things that do work and you create systems around them. For example, you're going to gather your mailing list and you're never going to stop doing that because that absolutely works. And whether you're doing that online or whether you're doing that in person or whether you're starting by emailing your friends and family, you're going to always be building your mailing list because you must always be marketing. That's never going to go away in any business, and certainly not for artists. Once you have a website that really works and you know why it works and you can tinker with it, but you don't have to reinvent it all the time. So that there are things that will be steady elements of your business that you are not constantly shifting around.
Right.
And then, what is your social media presence? Is something working for you? Is it not working? Do you hate LinkedIn? Do you not want to be here? Then just leave, do something different. Maybe, who knows whether you should be attending local shows, or maybe your work, you live in a very rural area, yet the work you do is really appropriate for an urban audience. Maybe you should be looking for the nearest big city. You know what I'm saying? You will find these ways and you'll find, where do I get response and where does it work? And then you create a system to continue doing things that are working for you so that you can repeat and leverage the knowledge that you have about what works.
That's great advice. That is really, really good advice. And I think that's what every artist needs, because to me, as an artist, I've seen others, and I myself are that way, kind of a loner, where I'm not sure that this is the right way. I'm not sure if I'm getting, the right feedback on this. Maybe I should shift. But then again, is it time to shift? Should I just take it a little bit further? I mean,
yeah,
having somebody there who has experience, who's been through this. And art world is, I think, one of those worlds that you can't necessarily find it easily, like a car salesman. People out there sell cars for, what, decades, centuries, whatever. It's a kind of the same thing. It's the way it works. But the art being so different, so many different genres and so many different ways of appealing, it's tough.
It is. And I think part of the difficulty is that what you are selling is very personal to you. If you're selling a car, you don't care whether they buy this model or that, and you didn't design or build that car. But when you are taking a part of yourself and you're doing something creative and you're really passionate about it and you're making it yourself, it can really hurt to get criticism, to be rejected. Will you learn to have a tough skin? Yes. Eventually, if you're in the business, you're going to get rejected over and over again. Believe me, back in the day, before the internet, I got so many rejection letters I could have wallpapered my dining room with them. But you get a little bit like, okay, whatever, that doesn't work, so move on. So you try something a little different, and again, it's finding those things that do work and going in that direction and constructing a business around it. But then also understanding that most people in the world never will buy from you. They're not your customer. They don't care about you. They don't want your art, but you don't need most people in the world. You need a tiny percent of people in the world to have a full-time business as a job as an artist, and to be very successful doing it. So how do you find those people who will care and just ignore all of the people who are going to buy whatever they put on their wall over at Target? They can do that all they want, but you don't worry about those people because they're not your customers anyway. So just don't be trying to appeal to everyone. That you will find out who are those people who should be buying from you and why. Why does your art matter? What does it mean how does it affect other people? How can you talk about it? Who taps into that? What kind of an audience is perfect for you? Everyone's different. So whether it's commissioned portraits or whether you're doing abstract sculpture, everyone's different. So you're going to have a kind of, as you find who are those people, well, where do they live and what do they do and what do they read online and where do they go and how do you find them and how do you tap into that network and that way to sell to them, so that when you are at a place where your ideal customers should be, you'll be able to get into those conversations with them, introducing them to what you do, keeping their their contact information, their email, phone number, address, whatever it is, to stay in touch with them, ongoing marketing, so that eventually you will close those sales, because sales take time.
Yeah, they do take time, don't they?
They
I
just
mean,
do.
I think if most people understand that point, that this is just not going to happen tomorrow, it will happen several tomorrows. So we just have to keep on pushing.
But I think it's like what you said, Phil. You have maybe not 3 months, maybe you need to be in business for 3 years.
Right.
And it may be that someone comes to you and they say, yeah, I really want to buy this. And where did I originally see? I saw you 2 years ago at this place, but I held on to your card, or I remembered you.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people who are clients of mine who said, I've been on your mailing list for 3 years. Okay. Now you're ready. Now you're ready.
Exactly. I'm going to tell that story again, because I told the story on another podcast about the same thing, that this really well-known artist, she had this piece of work, and she had this in a gallery, and somebody came in, and actually a lady came in, and she saw this lady looking at this one piece, and she went up to the lady and she said, you like the piece? And she said, oh yeah, this is just beautiful. I just enjoy it. And she says, well, I mean, you can buy it, or you can, have it, or whatever. But she had more conversation with her than just that. And the lady said, well, no, not right now. And, well, let me have your information. We'll go down. And she took the information. The lady left, didn't buy the piece. She kept in touch with her through newsletters and other things like that. It was 3 years later, she came back and bought this piece for $10,000. And the artist said, I knew she always wanted it. It just wasn't the time. It had to wait.
Right. And I mean, there are things you can do to help make it the time. If, let's say you're an artist and you know that someone really wants this expensive piece, would you be willing to give them a payment plan?
Right.
And then
That's
over
great.
2 years, and then eventually you'll deliver it? Or, is there another arrangement that you can make? I have a good friend who was a gallery closer at one time, and she had I can't remember which art. It was a very famous artist. I can't remember what it was. It was a smaller piece from this artist, and it was like $5,000. And this woman, I think, worked as a receptionist, and she didn't have a big salary, and she didn't have a lot of savings. And she really loved, and she fell in love with this piece, and she would come back to the gallery. And my friend, knowing that this would sell, wouldn't take a long time to sell. Within the month, it would probably be gone. She really started working with this young woman who was the wannabe collector. And she said, well, if this is something you've absolutely got to have in your life, and this would do it for you, this is the kind of the perfect piece of art for you. You don't have a lot of money, but what is there going on in your life that you could have the money? Well, it turns out that this young woman, her uncle had died and left her a vintage car that she never wanted to drive, but she didn't know what to do with it. She ended up selling the car and buying the art.
Oh my.
So she found a way that wasn't her first thought. How am I going to buy this?
Right.
And so my friend helped kind of make that work for her, to hold it for her and take a deposit. And, she kept in touch, and she sold the car and came in and bought the rest of, put down the rest of the money and owned the art. So, I mean, there are definitely ways that I think people can negotiate with clients. I think one really valuable thing that people can do, let's say you have a website as an artist, is literally put a button on your website that says, schedule a Zoom call with me. And if that person loves your art, but they don't know what to buy, or they want to get something as a gift, start showing them what you have. I have this, I have that. What's your budget? What are you looking for? Do you want a commission? And then just start discussing. If that person has an $800 price range, that's it, and they're looking at something for several $1,000s, do you have something else that is maybe not even in your site? And could you create something that would be smaller, maybe a small work for them that's still by you, that they're going to be happy with? And in that way, just working with the customer, not only are you giving them options they didn't know they had, but there is a huge value to working with customers personally. The artist works with
Yeah.
me. I know the artist. I spoke with them.
Mhm.
He made something for me. Phil
Yeah.
made something for me that was within my
Mhm.
budget. I'm thrilled with it. It's going to be a conversation piece in their home for years. So I think there are ways to do that but you need to build those relationships with people. And you also need to be very accessible to them so that they don't ever feel like, oh, he would never talk to me.
Mhm.
They'd be happy to speak with them.
Gosh, I mean, that's a great idea, Carolyn. I mean, I never thought of that, but yeah, I mean, I don't see, I'm at my starting point with most of my stuff, but I don't see a giving up level. I mean, I see that there's always areas that I can go into or try or haven't tried or should consider or work at and keep the thing moving, as long as in the back of my mind I know this is nothing that's going to be short term. It is a long game and it is going to keep on going, and that's where I want to be, and just stay in track with people like you're talking about, other artists who've done this, other artists who've been through this, other artists who are like you, other artists that do what you do. And God, yeah, you're right. I think I come from a IT world, and we're introverts too. But the whole thing about that is that very secretive. I mean, we don't give away, what we do and how we do it. But I've noticed getting into the art world, everybody's open. It's a
Right.
community. It is really open, and I love it.
Yeah.
I really do.
It is. It's like you're going to make a lot of friends as well as get a lot of great information. And those friends are also going to encourage you to continue. When you're working by yourself and you don't even know what you don't know, as you said earlier, or if you aren't sure whether your work is good, don't get any feedback, don't get any suggestions, if you don't know where to apply, or you're confused on things, someone is going to say, oh, here's what I think, Phil. And you're going to be like, I knew that. I knew that was true. And you just confirmed that from me, right? Those people are going to come in and they're going to be there because they are like you. They also have aspirations to sell their work and to build a career. So it's a perfect group of colleagues for you to be there who are going to be very encouraging. And I got to ask you, I don't know you, but as an artist, do you also buy art? Do you own other people's art?
I've heard about those people.
Yes, I own a lot of art. I've owned a ton of art because artists love other people's. They may trade, they may purchase, but they appreciate art, and they're huge cheerleaders for other artists. And so those people are folks that you want to have around. And also, let's say I was a sculptor and somebody was looking for something, but it really wasn't a good fit for me. I could recommend you because I knew you and I trusted you and I knew that your work was good, and I knew more about your business and that you were serious. Then you're going to get referrals from artists as well, as you should be giving to them as in return.
Right. I agree, and that's kind of why I'm kind of doing this, is to come out of the box and do these casts. But at the same time, I'm meeting people as well, and I think that's where artists should be. I mean, just keep meeting more people, and as I think what you said, as long as you are serious about it, you've got to be, just this. I'm not doing it to just make a bunch of money and real cheap stuff and just constantly go through. No, I'm a serious artist that does personal art, and I want to show it to everybody that would enjoy it. Market niche scenario. And that's all of these people that I'm coming around, they're doing the same thing. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm learning, but I'm meeting. And that's great. I love it.
Right. I have an artist that I was working with who just put on her own show, and we set it up so that it was very successful. But she had a lot of people attend. The press came. Her work was selling. It went really well, and several artists came and they recommended galleries that she should be in where they could refer her. And that's really the number one way to get into a gallery, is to be referred by one of the artists that they represent.
Right.
And then also artists telling her, you should apply to this show because it's really good and your work is a good fit. And someone else who said, I have an alternative space. I'm not sure whether it was a restaurant or something like that. And I'm very interested in you showing some of your work here. So she got 3 more opportunities from people who were not her customers, but just kind of in the industry, who were just, they showed up to support her at her show. And she ended up, you know, being able to follow other opportunities there.
That's the way
So, yeah.
That's the way to do it.
And this is free. It's free to be a member of these communities and free to network online and do that. And you should take advantage of that for sure. But then be giving, you know, if you want to receive, you, of course, you should get out there and pay it forward. You know, somebody and they'd be a great, they should really meet so-and-so. Go ahead and introduce them. And if you help that person, you know, you've kind of are putting seeds out there, and you will eventually be reaping all of the benefit of that.
Carolyn, again, I do appreciate your time, your effort, all those little nuggets you gave. I think those were just rock on. I really do. I think they were great.
Well, great. Okay, well, I'm glad it worked out for you. It's been nice speaking with you, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, we'll stay in touch.
All right.
Thank you, Carolyn. Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good one.
You too.